Hello, everyone. Welcome to our free virtual workshop on AI product analytics with SQL and Python from data to product decisions. Today, we are joined by somebody who has been working in this industry for more than 10 years. He holds a Master of Science degree from University of Texas at Dallas, and currently is working as a data AI product manager with HEB. I have with me, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Prithvi Shivshankar. Hi, Prithvi, over to you.
Hey Abhishek, hope everyone here is doing well. Really appreciate the time to be out here today. So very excited to be talking through some use cases that I've been working on at my company. But definitely, it's a very general use case. So little about like me, as Abhishek you mentioned, my name is Prithvi Shivshankar, and I'm a product manager at HEB. So HEB is, as you can see in my T-shirt here, it's a Texas-based company, and they're one of like the largest independently owned grocery retailers in Texas. So they're over like $50 billion in revenue. They're competitors to companies like Walmart and Amazon and Target. So, but very local to Texas. So, and what they focus on as a company is like on various kinds of everything grocery related, right? So you think about produce, you think about onions, garlic, tomato, all those produce at the very same time, even like snacks, soft drinks, so everything that can be consumed. Also, we deal with general merchandise products for like various kind of seasonal events like Halloween, Christmas, as well as even July 4th weekend that's coming up. So kind of all over there. And my role is I'm a data and AI product manager. So what I specialize in, and I'm part of like specialized in the space of supply chain. So what I do is I am focused on like various kinds of end-to-end data products, right? So you think about reusable assets. So you think about data sources for various kind of self-serve analytics, enterprise self-serve analytics use cases. Most recently, even generative AI use cases. So you think about when you think about AI, you think about various kinds of AI products, right? You think about decision support systems where to enable like various kinds of analysts, power users alike for to kind of like reduce the decision latency, as I would say, like on various kinds of insights. So you think about all the way from the time a product leaves a supplier warehouse. So take, for example, Procter and Gamble. So a product has to come from Procter and Gamble's warehouse to HEB's warehouse. So if that has to happen, just think about like the various number of steps, right? So it needs to go from the Procter and Gamble's warehouse, come to HEB's warehouse first. Part of that, there's a lot of like, spend on terms of trailer utilization, like, route optimization, for a full truckload of product getting to our warehouses so that we are making the most productive use of our routes. Once it comes into the warehouse, it needs to be broken apart. The cases need to be broken apart. It needs to be broken from pallets into cases. And then from those cases, it needs to be transported to various stores. Once it gets to the stores, it's first placed at a holding area. And then from there, it needs to go into like the shelves. So there are a lot of like, processes in place that need to happen. And the core issue always is inventory, right? So it's always about inventory at the end of the day because you need to hold ample inventory at your warehouses and at your stores to ensure that you don't go out of stock. Because if very critical products such as milk, bread, all these everyday products are not available at the shelves, it leads to a lack of customer trust, leads to lost sales, and then like because folks are not buying products at our stores, they're buying products they're going to Walmart instead. So there are product categories that can never be out of stock. But at the very same time, you can't be overstocked because that can lead to shrink. It can lead to spoilage. It can lead to damage, right? Because you think about products like milk again, they have a very low shelf life. They're not very shelf stable. Bread can be sold. If it comes to our stores, it needs to be sold within the next 3 days. Otherwise, it spoils. So taking all those considerations in, there is a lot of like AI use cases for reducing decision latency for supply chain analysts. So that by that logic, we don't need to be spending a lot of time. We don't need to be spending a lot of time on like kind of how do I say on like putting data together. So I can start with some questions here. If anyone wants to know a little about me or like my role. And also I have a slide deck. I'm not going to go through a Databricks notebook today, but I'm going to go through a slide deck because I'm going to be talking through more about like the parts that need to happen before you even get to AI product analytics. So that's going to be a very critical aspect. I can stop for to take some questions at this point of time.
Madhura Prasant, if you have any questions, you can ask. Hi, hey Kant. Please feel free to ask all your questions if you may have at any, please.
I don't have any as of now, but yeah, thanks for asking though.
All right. Okay. So let me open up my slide deck. I got a quick. Okay. Are you trying to record here? Okay. Okay. You're trying to record, right, Abhishek, or are you recording?
Yes, yes. Oh,
Okay.
yes. So it's being recorded.
Okay, because it's like asking me to grant access for some reason. I'm just not able to. Okay, it's for some reason not letting me to. Anyways, okay. Hey, Abhishek, can I send you my slide deck? Because I'm not able to, for some reason, I'm not able to share over here for some reason.
Just sorry, I was on mute. Just give me a second. Let me check. It shouldn't be the case. It's open. Let me check the
No,
settings again.
it's on my, the problem is on my end. It's
Also,
my
in that case,
laptop.
what I would, you can share it with me or like anywhere on LinkedIn, or and within a minute I'll just share my screen.
Yeah, I just sent it to you on LinkedIn.
Okay, our LinkedIn works well. Okay, so I have got it. Can you grant the access? I have requested for that.
How do I grant you access?
You must have received an email.
Yeah, let me see. Did I get it? Oh, sorry, wrong. Firstly, I sent you the wrong one.
No worries.
The link here. I'm just sending it to you once again. This is
Okay.
the one.
Okay. Again, request has to be granted.
Yeah, yeah, this one I can grant you. Yeah, I should have shared this with you.
Okay, now I received it. Okay, so I'll just share my screen now so that. Okay. Give me a minute. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, you want to mind putting it into the slideshow format, please? All right, perfect. Okay. So yeah, as I was saying, so what I want to do is I want to talk about AI product analytics from a very practical lens, right? So many times AI conversations are going mostly into models, prompts, agents, tools, right? The but the key question is always, right, did this add any kind of value, right? Is it adding, did this actually change how someone makes a decision? Did it improve their workflows? Did it like meaningfully cost like some kind of a monetary ROI? Right? And did it like improve like customer experience? So those are the kind of questions, right? So that's why I wanted to talk through like the inventory decision assistant, because the we did we implemented something like this within our company, and so far it's been largely a big success. So right, so the key idea is always very simple. AI products create value only when they fit into a real user journey and improve a real business outcome. Because otherwise, you think about token costs, you just think about like customer experience. All those play a big role here. So next slide, please. So what we can go through basically five parts today, right? And I can some of those slides maybe I can go through really quick. So we can start with the business workflow, right? Before we add AI, we need to understand how decisions are currently made, right? Where is the decision fatigue today? Because if you don't really understand the complex workflow, there's no point of even implementing an AI, because ultimately at the end of the day, it's not going to add the business value that we intended for. Secondly, we can map a user journey. Where does the user get stuck? Where do they lose the trust? And then where do such kind of handoffs happen? Then what we can talk through is like instrumentation, right? So this is where like tools like Amplitude become useful, right? Because we can start like tracking how users behave once that product is implemented, right? An AI product, for example. And then I can quickly go through some SQL and Python to help us analyze that behavior. And we can kind of close with how to improve the assistant over time, right? That inventory decision assistant. Next slide, please. Okay. So one common failure mode, right, that I've always seen is that teams start with AI and then they're searching for the problem. The demo looks impressive every time, right? Because I get sold on such kind of demos every time, right? I'm always reached out multiple times by various kinds of like, SaaS salesmen. I'm also reached out by account managers who are always trying to sell me and say, this adds true value to your, this adds true value to your workflow. But my question is, does it? And so how? Right? So you may have a good model, right? You may have a nice interface, but if it's not going to reduce the decision latency or increase trust or make the workflow easier, right? If that doesn't cause for like a great customer experience, it doesn't create that value. So that's where like, product analytics will flip the order, right? We start with the workflow, identify the decision, then decide where AI can help, and then measure where the outcome changed. Next slide, please. So this case study, as I was saying, inventory decision assistant, right? So imagine today some kind of a supply chain analyst when they're trying to monitor inventory health across like products and locations. Because you think about products like milk, right? They first have to go to a warehouse, then from a warehouse have to go to a store, and it all has to happen very quickly because they have very low shelf life. So it's absolutely critical that we get the supply chain accurate, and we address many of those inefficiencies. So typically, how would they get to such a decision latency? Because say milk has a low days of supply, or we are at a risk of a stock out. So milk is such a product that you can never go at a risk of a stock out, because those are staples that always need to be available for our customers, because milk is something that people are always continuously buying. So if you think about all that, that's why there's a need to kind of like ensure that there's some kind of a good tool in place that can help surface such risks. You explain possible root causes, and also you recommend actions. But it's not always the value that comes from generating a recommendation. It's only when the user trusts it, acts on it, business outcomes improve. right? So what would they typically do? They would maybe open multiple dashboards, they're exporting data, they're checking demand, they're comparing locations, and then decide where to like, transfer inventory, expedite, hold or escalate, right? Because inventories may need to move across warehouses, it may need to move to a different store. So all those are very, very critical signals here. So next slide, please. Before we get going, I would like to stop for some questions. Is there any questions at this point? Okay, so going into like, okay, mapping the decision journey, right? So before we instrument anything, we need to understand the decision journey. So in this example, right, the journey would start with some kind of a signal, right? There's a low days of supply, or there's some kind of a stock out risk. Okay, the user would need to investigate. They need to open reports, they need to export, they need to look at dashboards, they may need to do a bunch of queries. So the problem at this point is there's an information overload for those analysts, right? So when you think about that experience for them to get to that level of decision making, there's so much of fatigue involved, right? There's an information overload fatigue. There is a dashboard fatigue. There is also like, the time fatigue involved in all this. So then once they get all this data together, they are then diagnosing, right? Is it a demand spike? Is it a supply delay? Are there imbalances in the distribution centers, right? Is it a supplier issue? Is it is it a HEB issue, right? Is it the retailer's issue? Is it our own issue, right? Is it just sitting at the warehouse for too long, right? So, or did the manufacturer not produce enough in time for that? So then they kind of make the decision. Should they transfer the inventory? Should they expedite? Should they hold? Should they ignore? Then they act. They may create a task. They may send an email. They may change an order. They may place some kind of a purchase orders. So all those different things have to happen at once. So the journey tells us where, right? So if someone can tell me from all this, what is the key thing that causes what is like the issue here, right? Where do we think a good AI use case can even come? Or even say, should it even be an AI use case, right? So that's something I would ask all of you to think through, right? See, that's always the key thing in terms of product sense, right? Does this warrant a use case to be solved? In this case, the problem statement was very obvious, right? The opportunity statement was very obvious because that decision fatigue will cause delay in the ability for the analyst to make a decision. Now, if that gets delayed at that very time, the product can go out of stock, right? Criticals, especially during such things like Thanksgiving, where milk is such a very high critical SKU in this case. You cannot go out of stock for milk because, or even during Christmas. So those kind of spikes, especially they need that kind of insight at their fingertips. So hence, and if we don't have that, it causes loss of customer trust. Our customers are not shopping at our stores. They're either going to go to Amazon to shop, they're going to go to Walmart to shop. Hence, there's a need for a more like, expedited decision making process per se. Next slide, please. So where does the AI actually add value, right? So instead of adding AI to everything, right? So one trap is that's always the trap, but not every business problem even needs it, right? If the need is static reporting to know, okay, fine, what happened, right? How did my sales do? Then AI may not add much, right? If there's need for simple routing, automation, maybe rules are enough. AI becomes valuable, especially when the decision is repetitive, it's complex, it's time sensitive, or requires combining multiple signals. In this example I mentioned, right, a low value use case might be summarize this dashboard. Higher value use case, identify products at risk, explain the likely drivers, and recommend the next action. This is where we need to move towards more decision support capabilities and AI capabilities. Next slide, please. Okay, so this slide, what I mentioned is, right, see, when people say AI product, they often focus only on the model. But an AI assistant is more than that, right? It needs a signal. What changed? Needs a context. Why is this happening? It needs a recommendation. What should I do? Needs an action part. Can I actually do something from here? And it needs feedback. Was this useful? Right? So all these is what determines a good AI product, a good AI use case at the end of the day. Right? So each layer needs analytics. If users view alerts but never open recommendations that we make, we may have a discovery problem. If they open recommendations but never accept them, we may have a trust problem. But if they accept the recommendations but never execute them, maybe we have an operational handoff problem. Right? So in AI products, lack of adoption is rarely just a model problem. It can be a trust, context, UX, or a workflow problem. Next slide, please. Instrumentation, right? So what to track? So this is where Amplitude fits, right? This is where product analytics tools like Amplitude become useful. So Amplitude helps teams track user behavior inside digital products. So for an AI assistant in this case, what we wanted to track was events across the journey, right? So say that we've implemented the product, right? We have gone through the user journey. We have determined the use case. We have determined the opportunity. Now we have coming to the we have come to the part where we've driven that product to completion, right? It's a 0 to 1 product. It's been deployed. It's enterprise grade. But then what we need to track is the user behavior, because is the product successful, right? Is it delivering the intended value that it was meant to do? Right. So that's kind of the next part of the journey, right? That we need to work over. For example, so alert generated means the system detected a risk. Right. In this case, the product was determined that it was at a risk of a stockout. So then the next one would be that, okay, it gets sent out as an alert to the users. A recommendation view, the user opened the suggestion. So they opened it, they've seen it, they've diagnosed, they've understood. Maybe they didn't need to take some kind of an action. So root cause expanded. The user inspected the explanation. Okay, maybe in this case, this product was out of stock because there is more product coming, there's more product on the way, there is more product. We have sold off all the product that we've had at the stores. There is more because there was some kind of a promotion that was added to the product. There was a coupon added to the product. There was a rush because people wanted to do the shopping like in time for Christmas. They wanted to ensure that they had all their stock in place at their home like in time for like the July 4th weekend. So stuff like that. Recommendation was accepted, right? So that means the user agreed with the action. So they said, okay, fine. There was some kind of a lift on this. Hence, we needed to produce more. So then there was some action, right? There was a transfer, a task, or some kind of an order change that the user took because of this. Then the feedback was submitted, right? The user gave a positive or a negative signal. So the tool itself is less important than the instrumentation mindset, right? We want to understand how users move through the AI experience. So while I keep saying Amplitude is one of those products because that's something that I've started using a whole lot to track various kinds of user behaviors. That's kind of like the reason why I keep mentioning it. So because the broader point is that AI products need behavioral instrumentation, not just business kind of reporting, right? Next slide, please. So here's an event design, right? So a common mistake is tracking events without useful properties. So let's take the recommendation accepted. That event alone tells us something happened, but to make it analyzable, we need properties. What user role accepted it? Was it a planner? Was it an analyst? Was it an operator? What recommendation type was it? Transfer? Was it an expedite? Was it a hold? Was it something else? What product group was involved, right? Was it a milk product? Was it bread? Which groups are they typically acting on? What location pair was involved? And then I'm also going to say in terms of events, right? Okay, was it a July 4th event? Was it like say Christmas event, Thanksgiving event? Was there a hurricane on the way before this? What location pair was involved? What was the risk level? What was the expected business impact? These properties allow us to segment adoption and trust. Maybe transfer recommendations are trusted, but expedite recommendations, maybe not. Maybe certain groups respond better. Maybe high risk alerts get action faster. Right? Good event design is what turns user behavior into product insight. I'm going to say that. Next slide, please. Before I get going, I know I said a lot. Are there any questions at this point?
Hey Prithvi, this is Prashant. So you talked about amplitude, right?
Yeah.
So I've been using Power BI a lot, and I know that amplitude is more focused on product analytics per se, but could you give me an example where amplitude could do something that, the simple self-service tool like Power BI can't?
Yeah. So amplitude technically what it does is it kind of sees how what kind of hours are done, right? So it's kind of like a tool that works in the back end that kind of shows like how hours are done, how how users are interacting with the product, right? Power BI is more typically some kind of a business reporting tool, right? So it's kind of like Tableau, right? So it's used to more like track, okay, what happened, right? Okay, what were the sales, right? You want to showcase to leadership what was sales, what were your sales, what were your revenue, what was your gross profit. Power BI is more that kind of analytics reporting tool, right? So it's used for more, it's used for visualizations, right? Amplitude is more like used for to track such kind of user behaviors. Okay, Power BI is more a business reporting tool. Amplitude is more a user behavior tracking tool.
Okay. Yeah, I've got it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
See, of course, you can still connect Amplitude. Let me be clear. You can connect Amplitude to Power BI and kind of like do some of that analytics reporting there. Your product analytics reporting can be done that way, right? So, but Amplitude is more like for such digital products, right? Power BI is not used for those kind of use cases.
Okay. So if I may just ask one follow-up question. So when you're talking about like product related data, what does it typically entail? Like,
Yeah.
because from my understanding, the niche for this particular tool is just like to analyze user metrics. So
Yeah.
like what would that look like? Like, I mean, is it like how much has the user purchased? Like, what is the like profit margin or stuff like that? If I'm
No. So that's not
just
profit margin. Let me be clear. Profit margin. So what you're going to do is you would have revenue, right? You would have revenue. You would have any kind of a sales swipe that happens, right? At your point of sale. So what is that? That's a point of sale system, right? So that's an
yeah.
enterprise application. So that's your POS system, right? So that POS system will record that information. That information gets fed to something like Databricks, right? An analytical layer like say Databricks or Snowflake. And then from Snowflake, it gets connected downstream to kind of like a visualization tool per se, like either Power BI or Tableau, right? And
Yep.
those kind of revenue, that revenue that you wanna measure revenue, that's how you would do that. What user metrics you'd like to do is you'd like to understand click-through rates. Okay, so you think about Amazon, for example, you're trying to do an executive purchase on Amazon. The users may go to the cart, right? They may put the products on the cart. They may not have done a checkout, right? So you may want to track that user abandonment rate, right? Cart abandonment rate, right? You'd want to understand, okay, are customers actually getting to their checkouts? You want to understand from the time they log into the app to the time they want to the time they are logging out of the app, right? They're doing a checkout. That latency, right? That time to basically from the time they log in to the time to the time they place a purchase or place an order, right? That kind of thing is the user behavior that you would track through like a tool such as Amplitude.
Got it. Yeah. I have a better understanding now, Prithvi. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. No, that may, yeah. And yeah, see, but both have some kind of an impact, right? See, what you typically try to understand is you try to understand CX metrics, right? Customer experience metrics, right? How is the customer? Because if the customers are just leaving your app halfway through, that's going to have some kind of a dent on your revenues, right? That will still affect your revenues. So this is kind of like a way for us to understand where those critical bottlenecks are.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, and see, this slide kind of explains that, right? So your model outputs may generate this many tasks, right? So this is one of like the most important slides I would say. So AI teams, they all often measure what value the model generated, right? So they may say, okay, did this improve our sales? Right. So you may have built a model, right? You may have built some kind of an AI decision assistant. Did it improve our out of stock metrics? Right? Did it reduce our out of stocks? Did it improve our in stocks? Did we ensure that we had more product at the warehouses? Right? Did the product sell through enough? All those kind of things. Did we reduce or shrink? So that's kind of what like model outputs that's what like model outputs will generate, right? But what product teams are going to do is like they're going to measure what users did with it, right? So it may look like this. So 1,000 recommendations were generated. Maybe they only looked at 700. Maybe 300 were irrelevant to them. Maybe it didn't matter because it may have been lower sales SKUs, right? It may not have been the most profitable SKUs, right? Then they may have viewed 720. Okay, then 520 explanations, right? So we provided some kind of a causal explanation as to why something was at a stock out risk, right? But they only viewed 500 of those, right? They may have only accepted 350, right? And then they may have executed on 290. But of those 290, how much was the outcome that improved? So it can kind of measure that behavioral funnel, right? And business systems measure the final outcome, right? This was the point that I was trying to make, Prashant, on your ask before. So business analytics tells us like where the outcome changed. Product analytics tells us why users did or did not get there. So that's kind of like the distinction I would make here. I'm gonna stop for questions here. Okay, so next one. So this slide, okay, this slide is more around like, okay, so SQL is where you can start like turning some of those raw events into some kind of a product and insight, right? So like a simple funnel query can answer how many recommendations were generated, viewed, accepted, executed. From there, we can like kind of ask more useful questions. Which users or teams are actually viewing recommendations? Which recommendation types have the highest acceptance? Where do accepted recommendations fail to execute? How long does it take to from alert to action? So this is very practical, right? You don't need a fancy model to get started. Even a basic SQL funnel can reveal where the product is breaking down, right? See, it's always never about the SQL. It's more about, you can just start with a very basic funnel hygiene to just kind of measure where is the user journey breaking. And yeah, and see the major part of this is kind of taking a lot of those insights and then kind of determining, okay, well, what kind of like, user interviews that you need to have with some of the core users to better understand where and then start diagnosing from there. Next slide. Right. So Python is useful when like analysis becomes exploratory or statistical, right? So Python becomes more useful when we want to go beyond simple reporting, right? So we can use it for cohort analysis, do new users, build trust over time. Right? We can use it for segmentation, which sites, products, or recommendation types respond best. We can use it for experiment result analysis, right? Did the redesigned explanation improve acceptance? So you think about like Instagram, right? So you have the place where you click the plus sign and it opens up to where you can create a new story or you can create a new post. What if you move that? What if you move that, right? You give it to a select group of individuals, and that's your A/B testing, right? And those are the kind of scenarios where Python becomes more useful, right? You can use Python to evaluate recommendation quality, which features seem to drive acceptance or override. So the key is that Python should help us understand behavior and outcomes, not just create another notebook, right? So SQL helps us measure the funnel. Python helps us understand the patterns behind the funnel, is what I would say. Next slide. So finally, metrics pyramid. So I like thinking about AI product metrics in three layers, right? At the bottom, we have model performance, precision, recall, latency, cost, groundedness. Though these matter, but they're never enough, right? In the middle, we have like product adoption. Was it viewed? Was it accepted? Was it executed? Feedback submitted. This tells us whether the product is actually being used. At the top, we have business outcomes, fewer stockouts, less waste, better service levels, faster response time. A lot of AI projects, right, they get stuck at the bottom because they celebrate model accuracy, right? So, but typically where they're going to care is whether that product changed business, right? People care like only when the business outcomes improve. So that's where like great product sense matters. Next slide, please. So feedback loop is the product ultimately, right? So AI products are not one and done launches. They need a continuous learning loop. Instrument the experience, measure the funnel outcomes, diagnose the drop-offs, improve the UX, prompts, data, model, workflow. Fifth, finally, just validate through pilots or experiments. For example, if an acceptance is low, right? The answer is not always retrain the model, right? Maybe users do not understand the recommendation, maybe the explanation is weak, maybe the action is not easy to execute, maybe ownership is unclear. So that's where product analytics would help us avoid the guesswork. So low adoption is a signal. So the job of product analytics is to tell us what kind of signal that is. Final slide, please. So I would say always like start with the decision, build the assistant, right? So around the journey, measure whether users move throughout the journey, then prove whether the business outcome changed, right? So for AI products, we need to move beyond vanity through metrics. It's not enough to say the model generated recommendations. We need to know whether the users trusted them, acted on them, whether the action created measurable business value. This is how we move from like dashboards to like decision systems. And I would say great AI products reduce decision friction. They help the right user make the right decision at the right time. And that is key of a good data AI product. That's all I had here, Abhishek.
Oh, do we have any questions? Okay, so I take that as a no. Yeah, so since this free webinar is coming to an end, I would like to thank Prithvi for coming on board with us. And the recordings will be shared to not just with the participants who were there in the call, but also with the ones who registered for us, but somehow couldn't join us today. So it will be shared to you on your email addresses in the next 48 hours. A huge thank you to everybody for taking this time out and be a part of this free webinar. We're going to be coming up with a lot of free ones, not just only limited ourselves to product analytics, but the whole analytics world, be it the business world, be it the data world, and all of the things. Thank you so very much to all of you, Prithvi and the rest of the participants. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you, you all. Thank you.